Good morning and welcome everyone to our webinar. I am Ana Jara and I will be your moderator this morning. As part of our Puerto Rico webinar series, today we'll be presenting Business Formation Statistics, new data product for Puerto Rico. Currently, all participants are in listen-only mode. For your convenience, today's webinar is being recorded and will be published. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. It is a pleasure to have you all here this morning and to be able to share the efforts currently underway in Puerto Rico to provide greater access to reliable data. This webinar will provide an overview of the U.S. Census Bureau Business Formation Statistics, highlighting key findings for Puerto Rico. The chat panel in the bottom right-hand of your screen will be one-way communication, meaning we will send you a few notes and links in the chat panel. However, for questions that you'd like to send us, please use the Slido Q&A panel. If you would like to ask a question, find and click on the Slido button in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. Be sure you have the Q&A tab selected. There will be a box at the bottom to type your question. As always, we ask that you do not send any personal identifiable information, identifiable business information, or any other sensitive or personal information through the Slido Q&A panel. Thank you, and we hope you enjoyed today's webinar. Joining me today is Emin Dinlersos, Principal Economist at the Center for Economic Studies in the Census Bureaus, and Maria Marazzi, Puerto Rico FSRDC Administrator, who will be presenting this morning. Welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. I will give some general background information about the Census Bureau's Business Formation Statistics, also referred to as BFS. Mario will then provide more information for the Puerto Rico data in BFS. So the main feature of the BFS is that it provides a timely and high-frequency view of early-stage entrepreneurial activity at national, state, county, and industry levels. Traditional business data often tell us when businesses have already opened and started operating, but this measurement captures business formation only after the fact. In contrast, BFS moves earlier in this process. It looks at applications for employer identification numbers in near real time and uses them to measure business initiations even before employer businesses are fully visible in standard administrative or survey data. So I'll start by motivating why early measurement of business formation matters. Then I will talk about what BFS measures and how it is constructed. I will also describe different BFS series and public data structure. And finally, I will give some examples of how BFS can be used to understand economic shocks and local entrepreneurial activity. The motivation for BFS comes from the basic economic importance of startups and young businesses in the economy. Startups contribute significantly to job creation and innovation. They are also important sources of income for millions of people, including both employer and non-employer businesses. While not every new business becomes an employer or a large business, new business activity is central to entrepreneurship and local economic dynamism. Entrepreneurial activity is also highly responsive to economic conditions. Recessions, expansions, local economic shocks, and policy changes such as changes in interest rates, taxes, or subsidies can all affect the decision to start a business. Because business formation responds to changes in economic conditions, it can provide information about where the economy is heading. In other words, changes in business applications may be a leading indicator of emerging changes in the economy itself. It's important to note that business formation is a process. It begins with a business idea, then moves through several steps, such as application for an EIN, finding financing, obtaining permits, and site selection, before we actually observe an employer business in standard data. BFS focuses on this early part of the process. That is why it can serve as a timely and early signal of national and local economic activity. So BFS is a public data product that reports applications for employer identification numbers for business purposes. It also tracks new employer formations that originate from those applications. The key distinction is between different types of applications. Some applications are more likely to become employer businesses. These are businesses with paid employees. Other applications, on the other hand, are more likely to correspond to non-employer businesses, those that don't hire any formal employees. BFS provides information on both types of businesses. Overall, BFS gives us information on the volume and types of business applications and the transition from applications to employer businesses. It also provides detail by geography and industry, which is important because entrepreneurship is highly uneven across locations and sectors. As shown on the diagram on this slide, a business idea may lead to a business application, typically followed by a formation window. During this window, the applicant may seek financing, obtain permits, or complete other startup steps. The outcome may be an employer business or a failure to start a business at all. BFS is designed to measure key aspects of this pipeline from application to realization. BFS fills an important gap in the existing measurement of business formation. Existing data products measure new business activity with some lag. For example, the Census Bureau's business dynamics statistics measure employer entry with roughly a 2-year lag. Similarly, the Bureau of Labor Statistics business employment dynamics measures establishment openings with about a 7-month lag. These two data products are extremely valuable, but they are not designed to provide very early signals of business initiation. BFS provides a shorter lag measure at weekly and monthly frequencies with state and sector detail. This means BFS can be used when policymakers, researchers, and practitioners need a faster and earlier read on entrepreneurial activity. It's especially useful when conditions are changing rapidly, such as during recessions, recoveries, local shocks, or major policy changes. The data construction and methodology behind BFS is explained in the paper shown at the bottom of this slide with a link. Those interested in the details can refer to this paper. So this slide highlights the main uses of BFS. First, BFS is useful for economic monitoring. It allows users to track the volume of new business ideas before businesses start. That can help with monitoring expansions, downturn risks, and recoveries in entrepreneurial activity. It also allows comparisons across states, counties, and sectors. Second, BFS can support policy targeting. For instance, policymakers may want to know where business activity is emerging, where applications are high versus where employer formations are high, or where small business support and infrastructure may be needed. BFS can also help evaluate entrepreneurship policies such as tax changes, subsidies, industrial zones, and other business incentives. Third, BFS can support business decisions. Private sector users may use business applications as leading indicators of future market activity. For example, banks, legal service providers, accounting firms, commercial real estate firms, and B2B service providers may want to know where new demand from entrepreneurs is emerging, and BFS is useful for these purposes. The source data for BFS are IRS Form SS4 applications for employer identification numbers, or EINs, received weekly by the Census Bureau. EINs are needed by many types of businesses, including employer businesses, corporations, partnerships, employment tax return filers, and business bank account holders. One important qualification is that EINs do not cover every possible business initiation in the United States. Some sole proprietors operate only with Social Security numbers and never apply for an EIN. Nevertheless, applications with EINs account for a very important economically significant part of the business formation activity. A major advantage of the IRS SS4 form is that it contains very rich information. It includes the reason for applying, legal form of the business applied for, industry, whether the business plans to pay wages, and expected initial employment. BFS uses all this information to classify applications and construct indicators of likely business formation. The starting point of BFS is the EIN application, as I mentioned. Each application contains business purpose information and application characteristics, but raw applications are not yet a statistical product. They need to be classified. So the next step is classification. BFS uses information from the application to identify business applications, high propensity applications, applications with planned wage payments, corporate applications, and other categories. These classifications help distinguish applications that are more likely to become employer businesses from those that are less likely to do so. The final step is the production of indicators. These indicators are organized by frequency, geography, sector, and timing. That is what makes BFS useful for economic monitoring. So overall, the central idea is simple but powerful. Transform weekly administrative data on EIN applications into timely measures of nascent entrepreneurship and expected employer business formation. The core series in BFS is named Business Applications, or simply BA. BA includes all EIN applications made in the 50 states and the District of Columbia that are identified as having business intent. Puerto Rico data are also released separately. The BA series excludes filings that have little business intent, such as applications related to trust, estates, tax liens, public entities, selected personal finance filings, and certain concentrated filing spikes that appear to reflect financial filing behavior rather than genuine business activity. The key point is that BA is intended to capture EIN applications aimed at business initiations. It is the broadest timely measure available in BFS. It gives a broad, high-frequency view of the flow of new business applications before we know whether those applications will ever become employer businesses. The next important concept is high-propensity business applications, or HPA. HPA is a subset of BA consisting of applications with a relatively high likelihood of becoming employer businesses. These include applications from corporate entities, applications indicating planned wage payments, applications related to purchasing a business, applications involving a change in organization type, and applications in certain industries. Two key subsets of HPA are labeled WBA and CBA. WBA refers to applications with planned wage payments. These are especially relevant because planned wages are a direct indication that the business expects to have employees. CBA refers to applications from corporate entities. Both of these subsets have relatively high business formation rates. The diagram here shows BA as the broadest category of applications. HPA is a proper subset of BA. WBA and CBA are important subsets within high propensity applications. The remaining portion of BA includes likely non-employer business applications. So overall, a useful interpretation is that BA captures broad entrepreneurial intent, while HPA is more closely related to future employer business formation. BFS does not only measure applications, but it also tracks employer business formations. The Census Bureau's longitudinal business database is used to identify whether an application eventually becomes an employer firm birth and to identify the quarter of that employer birth, the timing of that birth. So the main formation series include what we call BF4Q, which measures employer businesses that originate from business applications within 4 quarters of application. Because actual employer births are not immediately observable, BFS also produces a series called PBF4Q, which is projected employer businesses from applications within 4 quarters. These projections are especially useful for recent months before actual employer formation outcomes are available in the administrative data. The series SPF4Q combines actual and projected formations into one complete series, and DUR4Q measures the average duration from application to formation in quarters. That is, it's a measure of how much delay there is in business formation. There are also analogous 8-quarter window measures. These allow users to look over a longer formation window instead of the 4 quarters. So just to summarize, there are 2 broad groups of BFS series: application series and formation series. The application series include BA, HBA, WBA, and CBA, as I mentioned in the earlier slide. These measure different types of business applications, from the business intent, broadest business intent applications, to subsets that are more closely related to employer business formation. The formation series include actual formations, BF4Q and BF8Q, projected formation series, PBF4Q and PBF8Q, combined actual and projected series, SPF4Q and SPF8Q, and the duration measure, GUR4Q and DUR8Q. So this taxonomy is helpful because different users may care about different parts of the business formation pipeline. Someone may be interested in the broadest measure of entrepreneurial intent, may focus on BA. Someone interested in likely employer formation may focus on HBA or the formation series. Someone interested in timing of business formation may focus on the duration series. So here's the publication structure and its granularity. BFS is released at multiple frequencies and levels of detail. The weekly series covered January 2006 through August 2024 as a standalone weekly release, and have been part of the monthly release since September 2024, but they are no longer released weekly. The weekly data includes 4 application series and are not seasonally adjusted. The weekly data are available at the national, regional, and state levels, with annual releases by 2- and 3-digit NAIC sectors as well. The monthly series run from July 2004 to the present. The latest data is April 2004. It's March 2026. They include 4 application series and 8 formation series, both seasonally adjusted and not seasonally adjusted. Monthly data are available nationally by region and by state, and they also include national sector series. For Puerto Rico, only the 4 applications series are available currently. The annual series covered 2005 to 2025 and provide county-level detailed counts for just the broad application series, BA. The practical takeaway here is that BFS offers both timeliness and granularity. Users can study recent national trends, state-level variation, sectoral patterns, and in the annual data, county-level entrepreneurial activity. This slide shows one of the important examples of why BFS is useful. During the COVID-19 pandemic, business applications fell briefly at the onset of the pandemic, but then rose sharply in the second half of 2020 and continued to increase. This was a major shift in entrepreneurial activity, and BFS captured this change very quickly. Note that the surge was especially strong among likely non-employer applications, as shown in this figure. Likely employer applications, that is HBA, also rose, but more modestly. Employer business formations moved up as well, but much less than total applications. Importantly, the surge was concentrated in sectors such as retail trade, especially e-commerce, and also in professional, scientific, and technical services. Geographically, the early decline was sharpest in Northwest and the West, while the rebound was especially strong in South and Midwest. So here's an example of how BFS can be used to study local economic shocks. This chart shows North Dakota business applications around the Bakken oil cycle. During the oil expansion period, applications rose sharply. This is consistent with the idea that oil field activity created broader local business opportunities not only in the energy sector itself, but also in services, construction, transportation, retail, and other supporting activities. During the 2014 to 2016 oil price bust, applications weakened, as you can see in this graph. Then there was also another oil-driven cycle in 2017 and 2018, with applications rising first and then falling. After 2020, COVID and the oil shock produced a sharp temporary dip in the application series. Applications later recovered and settled at a higher level than before the back-in boom. The broader lesson in this simple picture here is that BFS can be used not only for national monitoring, but also for understanding place-specific business formation activity related to local economic conditions. So now I have one example here from Puerto Rico. This slide illustrates how business formation statistics can be used to track local shocks in near real time. The figure shows Puerto Rico business applications monthly over time. The key observation here is that major hurricanes create very sharp disruptions in business application activity. Around the major hurricane periods, such as Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Maria, we see large drops across all of the application series. These declines are comparable in magnitude to the drops observed during major macroeconomic disruptions, such as the Great Recession and the COVID-19 recession. This is important because business applications are an early indicator of entrepreneurial activity. When applications fall sharply, for example, due to hurricanes, potential entrepreneurs may be delaying or abandoning business formation plans. These disruptions can then affect the pipeline of future employer businesses as well as job creation. Overall, BFS is not only useful for tracking national business cycle dynamics, but also valuable for monitoring local economic resilience and recovery after major shocks, including weather disasters, as in this example. For state and local governments, this type of timely information can be very useful in planning. So this takes it to my final slide. I'll talk about several directions for ongoing research and development in BFS. One area is economic indicators. We are studying the relationship between business applications and high propensity business applications and other economic indicators, mainly the principal federal economic indicators. BA and especially HPA appear to be strong early indicators of total non-farm employment, and they are therefore useful for assessing the direction of employment both nationally and locally. A second area is non-employer business formations. BFS currently focuses heavily on applications and employer formations, but a potential extension is to analyze non-employer formations and provide separate series for both employer and non-employer formations. A third area is the connection between local conditions and business formation. There is substantial variation in applications and formations across counties and tracts. We can relate business ideas and formation rates to demographic, economic, financial, and local business conditions. Ongoing work has already produced some results on these connections. A fourth area that we are working on is e-commerce and AI. We can explore business formation activity related to online marketplaces, which are increasingly important for new business formation. And we can also study whether AI is spurring new types of business formation. So overall, the future direction is to make BFS informative about the sources, geography, and economic implications of entrepreneurial activity. I will close here and turn it to Mario for a look at the Puerto Rico data specifically. For more information, you can visit the BFS website shown here, and questions can be sent to the email on this slide. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mario Marazzi, and I joined the Bureau last year. And during this time, I've been undertaking research using Puerto Rico business formation statistics microdata, assessing its quality and usefulness as a high-frequency indicator to support near-term economic surveillance of the archipelago. I hope everyone can see my slides. Emin has done an excellent job in explaining the methodology used to prepare the Bureau's business formation statistics. I only have a few words and slides that I wanted to share with you about the Puerto Rico business formation statistics. So first, some important dates. I think some historical context might be useful. Employer identification numbers, or EINs, have existed for a little over 50 years. In Puerto Rico, they are commonly known as Seguro Social Patronal. It was in the 1970s that the IRS first required all businesses to apply for EINs. At the time, the use of administrative records in the preparation of official statistics was still in its infancy. Administrative records are data that are gathered by the government to comply with an administrative purpose, not a statistical one. For example, think of a dataset prepared by the Internal Revenue Service containing all applications for EINs with business addresses in Puerto Rico. Well, back in the day, the Bureau relied almost entirely on data collected through surveys, which were designed to fulfill a statistical purpose. During this half-century, the rise of computer systems, a reduction in survey response rates, and an ever-increasing pressure to reduce statistical production costs have propelled us to transform the way we produce statistics. By taking advantage of the administrative records that the government already has in its possession. For instance, by the turn of the century, the Bureau was already using administrative records heavily in different stages of the statistical production process. But it wasn't until more recently that we have begun to look at indicators that are almost entirely derived from administrative records. BFS is one example of this. The administrative records used to prepare BFS were not collected for a statistical purpose. They were collected for the purpose of accounting for the EINs that had been applied for. But the Bureau has found that the indicators that can be derived from these administrative records do in fact serve a statistical purpose, even if they weren't originally designed to do so. This is what was discovered during the initial BFS research and development phase that took place between 2012 and 2018. This phase ended with the publication of a key research paper in 2018, and we are honored to have been able to hear from Emin Dinlersaz, one of its original co-authors. And I apologize, Emin, if I totally messed up your last name. In February 2018, the Bureau published BFS for the first time, but as a research product. In 2019, the Bureau began publishing quarterly BFS data, but this time as a standard product. By 2021, the Bureau began publishing monthly BFS for the first time. And in March 2024, the Bureau published Puerto Rico BFS Business Application Series as a research product. And last year, these series were included in the standard national BFS product. This, of course, is just the beginning. Puerto Rico still lacks the 8 Business Formation Series, and we currently do not have a timeline of when these series might be published, but we are keenly aware they are missing, and we are looking forward to publishing them at some time in the future. In the meantime, I think it is worth saying that last year, Puerto Rico was fully included in the Business Dynamic Statistics program, which is, it's called BDS, Business Dynamic Statistics, which is it's a different program, which is an important, but the inclusion of Puerto Rico in that program is an important stepping stone to being able to produce the remaining business formation series for Puerto Rico in the BFS. But my hope is that this brief historical summary of the research work that went into producing BFS gives you an idea of the amount of work and time that is required to research and publish new data. Next slide would be here. That said, let's talk about business applications. Let's talk about what has been published and is now available every month on our website. Here are the 4 business application series that have been published for Puerto Rico. It is similar to the chart Emin showed, but at an annual frequency. As you can see, after 2017, the total number of business applications, that is, the total number of applications for employer identification numbers with a business intent in Puerto Rico has increased quite a bit, somewhere from around, 12,000 to almost 25,000. One might be tempted to believe that the growth in business applications might suggest an acceleration of economic growth after 2017. But what we have found is that not all business applications generate employment and economic activity. That's why we have created the other business application series, HBA, CBA, and WBA, that Emin described so well. Through the research that Emin has described, we have found that these groups of businesses are more likely to end up as employer businesses. That is why they are useful indicators to publish. Next. Because Puerto Rico is now included in the standard national product, you can now easily compare Puerto Rico's business applications with the 50 states and the District of Columbia. This chart shows the high propensity business applications filed in each state for the calendar year 2025. In this chart, Puerto Rico ranks 37 out of 52 jurisdictions in terms of its high propensity business applications. The top states are places like California, Florida, Texas, and New York, ranging from anywhere from 118,000 to 215,000 business applications in 1 year. Towards the middle of the chart, you can see Delaware, DE, with about 20,000 high propensity business applications. Delaware is a state that is known for being a great place to register a company because of the way its laws are structured. So even though it's a very small state, it's actually, quite high up in this ranking. Puerto Rico is at about half, at about a little more than 10,000 high propensity business applications in 2025. Now, a lot of things go into this, making, this happen, right? Geography, economic innovation, economic growth, and this helps us understand where we are so that Puerto Rico can design strategies to move forward. Finally, let me talk a little bit about where you can find the BFS data. The BFS program page is the first link there. You can learn a lot about how the BFS is put together, the methodological manuals. You can get the weekly data, the annual data, and other data that are available for stateside. We also have the BFS program data page, second link there. But I'm going to show you this last one. It's called the Business and Industry Time Series Download and Trend Charts. Let me see if I do that correctly. Over here. So if you click on that link, the last one, Business and Industry Time Series Download Trend Charts, it will take you to, I hope everyone's seeing now, yes, the website. In this, this is where you can download all sorts of time series from, relating to the topic of economics. You can see here all of our economic releases. Specifically the business formation statistics. You simply select it, hit submit, and then it will allow you to pick exactly what jurisdiction, what states, start date range 2004, the end 2026. Yes, I want all NAICS, business applications, and I think this is one of the first times, I'm not entirely sure, but I believe this is one of the first times that we've included Puerto Rico in this dropdown of select geographical level in this website, so that now you can also get the Puerto Rico BFS data directly from here, and really use it as a guide to gauge economic activity and business formation. Thus concludes the remarks I have prepared. Want to take it away back to see if we have any questions.
Thank you very much, Amen and Mario. We have one question right now.
if the BFS stats will be published by municipios?
So that's a great question, and it's something that we are looking into. Right now, there is no timeline for that, but it's certainly a possibility. And I think that it would be very useful to really see which municipios, which counties, as this would be said in English, are generating the most applications in Puerto Rico. And we can then compare, say, San Juan with other cities in the United States, for instance, which ones are generating more business applications. But of course, we don't have a timeline for that. There's a lot of research has to go into it to make it possible, but it's something that we certainly have our eye on achieving also soon. So thank you for the question.
How do BFS stats break down industry and to what level? That's a question for you, Mario.
Oh, thank you. Indeed, Puerto Rico BFS statistics are currently not published with any NAICS breakdown. Important for us to clarify that. I believe at the national level, they are broken down by several NAICS categories, I think 2 digits and 3 digits. Emin can correct me if I'm saying anything wrong. And I do believe that for states, I think we've begun to publish some annual NAICS data. Is that correct, Emin? I think
Yeah,
that's what your
Mario, I
slide
think
said.
you had a good assessment of the data series we have on sectors. I mean, we release monthly nationwide 2-digit NAICS sector series, right? And then we have some 3-digit breakdown annual series, right, released annually. But we don't have state sector combinations yet, which is something that have been prompted to us before as well. So that's an important next step for us to consider and see if we can develop state sector series, which would be also directly applicable to the case of Puerto Rico.
And actually, there are another 2 questions, but I think that you both had basically answered those. Will researchers or you classify BFS by industry type, say medical devices? And the other one is, what is the maximum disaggregation on NAICS level? So I guess I already explained about NAICS. It seems like a subject that people do care about. And just a note, if you are, because this was focused on Puerto Rico, if you want to make your questions in Spanish, feel free to do so. Si quieren escribir sus preguntas en español, pueden hacerlo así y se las traducimos de ser necesario.
Thank you, Emin, for correcting me there on the 2-digit.
No, I think you had the correct view of the series. I just want to add that drilling down to very granular industries is a little bit challenging because of the confidentiality and privacy protection procedures we use. So currently we don't go further than 3-digit NAICS, and that's only like an annual release. But I think we have weekly data on those. But those are also subject to sort of like certain disclosure requirements, and some of the data may be suppressed because of thin cells. So going further to, like, for example, 4-digit NAICS industries, somebody mentioned medical devices, that may not be always feasible, especially at the geography level. So I just wanted to make that clear.
So what is the maximum disaggregation NAICS level for the BFS statistics?
So if this, I think at this point, the maximum is 3-digit, but that's not released on a monthly basis. It's basically released as an annual file, I think weekly, with weekly information. So that's a rich data set, but it's not available on a monthly basis or a weekly basis in real time, only in retrospect after the year closes.
Thank you, Amen. We have another question.
I do. Same again, it's related to NAICS, right? And it's for the US as a whole, what's the level of NAICS detail?
May I propose, Emin, would it be possible for you to share the slide where you were summarizing everything? I think that would help everyone.
Yeah, I think I'll go back to that slide real quick so that we can reiterate on it a little bit. So let me try to share my screen here.
And while Emin looks for that on the slide, there's another question for Mario. Is there more granular data available through the FSRDC? I understand that for confidentiality reasons, it wouldn't be available publicly. So if there's more granular data available through the FSRDC, Mario?
Well, we'll answer the questions one at a time. So, Emin, let's
Yeah, so
go through your
here's the
slide.
publication schedule, right? So we have some weekly and monthly and annual data. And the highest level of industry desegregation is at the 3-digit NAICS level, weekly data, but released annual, right? Not on a continuous basis week by week, but in retrospect after the year closes, this data is made available. So you can see what's happening in the 3-digit NAICS level annually with weekly granularity. Other than that, at the monthly real-time releases, we do have at most a 2-digit nationwide sector release. So I know it's high demand, the industry data. So the research in BFS would like to go in that direction a little more and try to see if it is feasible to at least release some more granular data on a monthly basis.
Thank you, Emin. Indeed. The question with respect to the FSRDC, correct. My understanding is that business application data from the IRS, microdata, are not available for external research projects at the FSRDC. The agreements between the Census Bureau and the IRS simply don't allow it. Thank you for the question.
This concludes today's webinars. We would like to hear your feedback on today's webinar. After you leave the webinar, you will be seen a brief survey. Thank you in advance for your comments and thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time. Thank you so much.